Hey YouTube, it's Zuma Rave Wolf coming at you, and I am in my new studio, my new house. As you can see, I got one project kind of started to make it a little more homely, but I will get back to that later. Today I wanted to share with you guys a couple of little hacks that I learned when dealing with clay and or your little dioramas like World of Warcraft. Some people like to actually have a full miniature scale of their terrains that they like to make, which is really cool, really awesome. I've not really played World of Warcraft, the card game, or Dungeons and Dragons. I never really played it, but I've seen people that have, and I've seen people that do the dioramas for that, and it's really cool. I'm going to be sharing some little hacks that I've learned from other YouTube users like NerdEcrafter. I'll be putting her somewhere down here or somewhere along there, up in the description, in the little cards and whatnot. And then also just some little life hacks that I found to be really cool. If you make little like clay sculptures, or I believe NerdEcrafter does little tiny landscapes and things like that. Some of her stuff I've seen is really cool. And so let's just dive on into that. Okay, so one of the things that I have done, or at least started, was my home is going to have an outdoor theme. As you can see, the walls are kind of a neutrally color. I'm renting this house, so I'm not going to be able to paint it whatever colors I want because, my thought is I'm not going to be the last renter. So I wanted it to be neutral, and then I figured, I've got my browns, I've got my greens and things like that in the design and the decor. So of course, one of the things that I thought of was, okay, well, how can I have outdoor decor and not make it tacky? And one of the things that I thought was, I've seen a bunch of these little sculptures where people have made them and it looks just like a hillside, or it looks just like a lake or something. And actually, if I can get it down here, I started this little thing, and you can see my pine tree. I'm working my way up. It's not been fired in the oven yet, as you can see. I got all my tools and things. Now, something I've noticed with a lot of YouTubers is they do the foil underneath, and then they bake it. And I have baked this little hill, and you can see here I've got kind of a sandy, almost a dirt look to it. I don't know if you can see that good. NerdEcrafter, whenever she does her dirt and her kind of gritty little thing, what she does is she takes those chalk pastels, I believe they're called charcoal pastels if I'm not mistaken, and she takes her X-Acto knife and she rubs it along the edge and creates kind of a dust. And then she takes a paintbrush and she just does whatever she needs to do to color it. Yes, I realize there is a toothpick standing out. That is to help my evergreen tree, the leaves, or the needles, excuse me, to have something to grasp onto. But anyways, as you can see, I colored along the dirt part. And actually, this is not sand, believe it or not. Your local dollar store will have all of your seasonings, your spices, things like that. At my Dollar General, I just got garlic powder. And if you can see, it's grainy, kind of like sand. Now, this was only $1. So if you don't live near sand, if you don't have any dirt available to you and you cannot go buy it at a crafting store, at a hobby store, this little sucker right here, along with salt or sugar, will actually save your butt if you want to make it look like real sand, real dirt. You can also mess around with cocoa powder. I don't know if any of you guys have been to Cocoa Beach, Florida. The sand is super, super fine and super soft, and it does actually look like a Nesquik powder for chocolate milk. And if you're trying to recreate that, if you're trying to make a beach where it kind of looks like cocoa powder, go for it. I have no problems with it. It's your design, your little sculpture that you're making. But yes, this makes for awesome sand, and it's realistic. It's to scale. You can also use salt. Doesn't have to be this type of salt, but anything that you feel you could make into sand or dirt. Pepper, I'm pretty sure, would make some really good dirt. I just found that out. And one of the things that I did was I used school glue, Elmer's school glue, which I believe is 88 cents at Walmart before tax. You could also find it at a craft store, or you could also find it at your dollar store too. I'm sure it wouldn't be more than $1. But what I did was I made a big old blob around where I wanted the dirt to go and the sand to go. And I gave a generous amount. I wanted this thing to be pretty well covered. So what I did was I took a brush that I really didn't care about, and I just went along this edge and a little bit down here where the water was going to go. And I just grabbed me some of my little garlic powder. And what I did was I sprinkled it onto that glue, and I kind of moved it around with the brush. And so I kind of made it as evenly as I could. And my plan is I'm probably going to go through again and do another little round to just grab a little bit more of some sandy feel to it. As I said, this is the water part, where the water is going to come up to this little piece of land. As I showed earlier, I've got my little aluminum foil that helps it cook on the inside and also gives it the form. And then I have my tree that I started. I don't know if you can see the detail, but I scratched all that out to resemble bark. And then I started with these little fronds of the pine tree. And then I've got, of course, my boulders that come up to the land and also kind of help with the water part. And there was a little sign that I was going to put on one of these little hill parts that says "Welcome to the Outdoors." I bought that online thinking it was a bigger sign, more for outdoors. It turns out I didn't see that it was a little tiny sign made for dioramas like that. So yeah, that was my fault. That was my fault for not looking, but they were super cute. And I should have realized how cheap they were, that they weren't a bigger sign. But anyway, that is my helpful hint for today. That is my little tips and tricks for today. I used the Sculpey. It's just the white stuff that you can get pretty much anywhere, really. I mean, it bakes in the oven, so you don't need a kiln, which is super expensive and time consuming because I believe you have to leave things overnight. And if you don't have any pair of scissors, X-Acto knives work very good for scraping those charcoal pastels. It's also really good for cutting the clay if you don't have scissors or if you don't have tools like these, for example. These are actually $15 for a 12 set at Hobby Lobby. I just picked one up for some workshop that I was doing on my dragon eyes, and I needed the pointy bit. So that one had, I think, 3 pointy bits, and I was hoping that 3 people would come to my workshop, and I only had 1 person come, so I have extra pointy bits to do all my stuff with, which is cool, which is fine. Oh, let me get that brush for you and show you guys. This is just a little cheapo children's brush. I used this bit right here to do the glue and to put the sand on. It washes out really easy because it's a thicker plasticky brush. It's not your typical horsehair, whatever hair brush. It's not synthetic hair. It's actual little plasticky bristles. And I used this wire brush that came with the kit to kind of poke holes into where I wanted the dirt to go. It's really cool for texturing. I've seen a lot of people use this for texturing, and some people use it to make fur on a clay figurine or sculpture of some sort. I personally just like it for dirt. It makes it easier for the sand and the dirt and the grime to stick to. And quite honestly, it's really fun to sit there and poke out the little designs and poke out the holes in the dirt, in the sand, and give it just a tad bit more of a dimension to it. I mean, it's just awesome. You can figure out how you like to use these. I'm just saying I like it for the dirt and the grime and the gristle look, and it helped me a little bit on the tree bark, but it wasn't deep enough. Even though I was pushing in, it didn't give me the look of an actual bark on a tree. So I stuck to this for dirt. But anyways, yeah, if you guys want to check out NerdEcrafter and see some of her stuff and see how she does her things, I will link her in the description below. I hope that you guys will look at your salts and your garlic powders and your sugars and experiment with these things. I am not sponsored by any of these companies. These are just some hacks that I picked up along the way. So if you guys make something with these, if you guys find it helpful, please like, please